ShareCare, helping you find experts, the top minds in health and medicine. It's ShareCare Radio with Dr. Daria Long-Gillespie on RadioMD.com.
Hello and welcome back. It is Dr. Daria. Now, what if I told you that you could make every single day a great day? Make it productive, make it calm, and make it successful. My next guest is a behavioral economist and advisor to Fortune 500 companies to help people have their best days every day. She's the CEO of behavioral science firm 7Shift, wrote the New York Times bestseller How to Have a Good Day, and has been featured in Inc., Forbes, and New York Times, among other great outlets. Caroline Webb, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I hope you can make my day a great day. So you already have just by joining us. So I'm very excited. Tell me, what got you into this area in the first place, which sounds amazing, but what triggered it?
Well, for the last 15 years, I've been working as a consultant and coach, helping companies actually often shift their whole culture in a more positive direction. And I was always very interested in the individual dimension. What could an individual do to make a positive shift in the way that each day felt? And I saw inside hundreds of organizations over that time. And over the years, I realized that even people who are in great jobs, who are smart and aspirational, day to day are not necessarily having a great time, often feeling worn down and weary. And that's confirmed by a lot of studies out there, studies suggesting that 13% of people only are engaged in the work that they do, feel really excited and attached to what they're doing. So I got very interested in what are the small shifts that people can make every single day that can make the daily working experience feel more satisfying, more productive. And after all, if you can fix the small stuff, that adds up to possibly 10% better day each day. That adds up to a lifetime of
I will take that.
Yes, exactly.
And it's so true. It feels like often a combination of people feeling not engaged in work and not excited about it, and then on the other spectrum, just feeling like they have so much to do that they're just constantly running and always overwhelmed.
Exactly. You might love your job, but just feel really worn down from day to day. And I saw that so much. And I also saw how really small tweaks could make a big difference. So that's what the book is about.
I love it. Well, the next question is, what are some of those small tweaks? Talk to us about one of your favorites.
Well, one of my favorites is what I call setting intentions. And it comes from the brain science behind the way that the brain processes information. So we all look around us and we think that we're getting a good grip on what reality looks and feels like. But actually, our brain can only process a certain amount of information. So if we tried to focus on every single thing around us, our brain would kind of crash like an overloaded computer. So what it does is it filters out most of what's going on around us. And so we have this sort of partial, edited version of reality that we're experiencing. And what our brain decides to filter out and what it decides to filter in so that we see and hear it is actually determined by what's already top of mind for us. So that's how you can roll out of bed in the morning, spill your coffee, be in a bad mood, and then everybody seems to be a jerk. Because your brain says, okay, you're in a bad mood, so I'm going to notice everything that confirms that you should be in a bad mood.
That really gives science to the, getting up on the wrong side of the bed affecting your entire day.
Absolutely. And there's, it's not just your impression. Your starting point really does determine then what you notice in what unfolds. And so, of course, then the wonderful opportunity here is let's be more deliberate and let's be more intentional in what we want to have top of mind as we go into a conversation or a meeting. And you might have a terrible commute and you might notice in yourself that you're feeling grumpy. Deciding to notice 3 or 4 good things in the minutes that you have left in your commute will not only make sure that you see things you might have otherwise missed, maybe someone helping someone up the stairs, or maybe, just a kind of cool hat that someone's wearing. But then because you'll have those positive things top of mind, your brain will say, okay, well, now I look for more positive things because that's actually the way that, I prioritize my attention.
The brain's very suggestive that way, isn't it? Suggestible.
Yes, suggestible, exactly. So, I like that because it's so fundamental. It's almost existential, it's in a way that it kind of really changes your whole existence to think about the fact you have this control over the way you experience reality.
So you're saying that, if I'm being a little bit negative one day or frustrated and you think, my intention is to be more positive today going forward. So you literally deliberately try to find the positive very actively until your brain kind of takes over.
I've got a little technique that I use, actually, which is to check my aim, check my assumptions and my attitude, and check what my attention is going. And obviously that helps me remember it because they're all beginning with A. So I say, okay, what really matters, Caroline? What do you really want to pay attention to? And, checking your attitude and assumptions within that makes sure that you're not derailing what it is you're going to notice. So if I'm going into a conversation that I'm expecting to be a bit difficult, I'll say, okay, what really matters to me in this conversation? Well, it matters more to come out with a collaborative outcome than that I score points. Bingo, you see something completely different. You're going into a meeting with people you're expecting to be jerks, you're going to see everything that confirms that they're a jerk. Go in saying, okay, I'm going to look for signs that these people are actually, decent folks. Then you'll see those signs that you would otherwise have potentially missed. And that's quite transformational. It doesn't mean you turn a terrible day into an amazing day, but it can mean that you spot the gem that you might otherwise have missed if you hadn't set more positive intentions.
Yes, absolutely. And if just that one little gem can totally change the way that meeting and the outcome of that meeting, which can affect the rest of your day and your week.
Totally.
So technique number one is to really setting your intentions and doing that really deliberately until the point that your brain will eventually take over and start doing it. But you really have to actively say, what do I really want to be? What's my goal here?
Perfectly put. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Next, I know you've talked about ways to make your day go further. For all of us, none of us have enough hours in the day, and it seems to get worse every week. What are your tips here?
Well, I think a lot of the time we focus on the what of what we have to do and less on how we're going to get it done. And actually just taking a few moments to think about the how can transform the way that the productivity that we're able to squeeze out of the day. So one thing that is good to know about the brain is that when we switch our attention from one task to another, we lose some time and some mental energy. When we've got a million things coming at us from all directions, we feel really scattered and stressed.
Yes.
And
so true.
It can feel hard to get anything done. So a technique that I like is something I call batching and zoning. So what I mean by that is you look at what you've got to do for the day. You think, okay, what are the different batches of tasks? What are the types of tasks? There might be a bunch of calls. There might be time that you need to devote to checking email and really nailing the big responses you need to write. There might be some deeper thinking time that you need to devote to some more important tasks. And I find, first of all, gathering together your list of 14 things into 3 big chunks is quite calming. It actually reduces the load on your brain. And then thinking, okay, when am I going to do those batches of tasks in groups so that you're not constantly switching your attention from one thing to the next? So you will actually be faster getting your email done if you blitz it 2 or 3 times a day rather than 2 or 3 times a minute.
Okay, and that's what I was going to ask you, because email, if I do nothing else, I could probably spend my entire day just responding to emails in real time and get nothing done.
Yes,
so
totally.
I think this is something I think everybody talks about. So you say do email, just kind of consider it another one of those batches.
Yes, batch together. Of course, many of us need to stay broadly online for long periods during the day. But the more that you can collect together your email in one batch or 2 batches or 3 batches or whatever is really practical for you. And those, the zone of day that you might devote to it might be 2 or 3 hours long. I'm not saying that, you don't really devote a good chunk of time to it, but you'll get through it much more quickly if you're not constantly asking your brain to switch from email to reading to making a call to browsing.
Right.
If you do one group of tasks together, you're asking much less of your brain in terms of switching its focus from one thing to the next.
It's a lot less friction. I talk about the friction when you switch from a phone call to an email, and no matter what, it takes a few minutes to get finished with one and then switch into the other. Versus if you can just do a bunch in a series, you're saving that time.
Absolutely. In fact, one study, which was sponsored by Microsoft, suggested that when we get an email, if we're in the middle of a task, even if we don't respond to the email, it takes on average about 15 minutes to get back to our train of thought where it was before.
15 minutes? So do you recommend, shutting it down?
Yes.
What do you do?
So, that's the next. That's
what
the
happens
next
if your boss sends you an email? You don't want to be offline. So, okay, tell me the next step.
Yes. So,